Cavett Show with Gloria Swanson, Janis Joplin, actress Margot, former football star Dave Meggyesy, and Bob Rosengarten and the orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Cavett.
Believe it, I haven't heard that much applause since Melvin Laird accidentally sat on a model of the ABM. Oh. Pardon me, I choked on some coffee coming out here, but I think I'm going to be all right. I had a rough weekend. You know, have you ever done that? I entertained an old girlfriend over the weekend. She'll be 73 in August. That's silly. Strangest things are in the paper today. Monday, you know, it's hard to find subjects, but there's an article that science have learned, music makes plants grow faster. You probably read about that. There's a lesser-known study that Rosengarten's drumming kills fungus, but that's a whole other thing. But isn't that an interesting thing? I think that's an example of what they're calling today our distorted priorities. I mean, spending a lot of money and time figuring out what makes plants grow, while all over the world, human beings are going to bed short. I think it's ridiculous. But anyway, welcome to New York. This is the Big Apple, as New York, or the Big Dirty Apple, as it's coming to be called. So you'll be glad to know that the pollution index is no longer on unhealthy. It has moved back, I'm happy to report, to unsatisfactory. Isn't that wonderful? But don't worry if you're tourists about things you hear. The subways, in spite of what you hear, are safer than they have been. That's because the muggers are afraid to ride in them or taking taxis. It's wonderful. Anyway, what else? Oh, by the way, I came in last night. There's one thing. I make a lot of jokes about New York. But when you come down that Hudson River Drive at night and you can see the lights and you can sense the excitement and you can smell the river, it's just... The Hudson is... A guy caught a fish today that was too short and it begged him not to throw it back. Now that's dirty. Oh, the Penn Central, by the way. They just tried out their fastest train over the weekend, their new fast train. It did pretty well. It was only beaten by a Bronx Cub Scout in a potato sack. And you can tell a Penn Central train because their emblem, they're very proud of. It's in vivid colors. It's a turtle sneering. And people are complaining a lot, though. They don't like to ride near the engine. In the first 3 cars in the Penn Central, it's distracting because you can hear the engine saying, I think I can, I think I can. Ridiculous. Sammy Cahn got married. Yes, Sammy Cahn, the composer. Isn't he a famous composer?
He's a lyricist.
Well, it's wrong to say, because he writes the words.
Yes. No, just the lyrics.
Well, he writes the words and the lyrics. He wrote, it's interesting, it's his second marriage. He wrote Love is Lovelier the second time around. But he also wrote, wait a minute, here's the funny part. He also wrote High Hopes and Call Me Irresponsible. See, I tell you when the funny part is. Hey, that thing happened over the weekend where an actor in a stock theater did a line from another play. You know how when they're doing several plays at once? And they had been doing Peter Pan in the afternoon. And in that night's performance of another thing, he suddenly said the Tinkerbell death line, everybody who believes in fairies, please clap, you know. And it nearly ruined the second act of The Boys in the Band. Say, Chet has left us. Chet Huntley, you know, it was his last, he finished I thought that was interesting. It was a touching moment at the end of his last show where David Brinkley said, good night, Chet. And he said, it's my last night. I thought that was Well, wouldn't you do that on your last? Oh, he didn't. He didn't really do it. Hey, the answer to the thing we've all worried about, a 747 can land in Cuba. Did you see that? A hijacked 747? And Castro, this is true, you know, he came down and looked at the plane and was very impressed, he said, with it, which is no wonder. I mean, it has 3 more bathrooms than Cuba. Oh, one thing, and then a man has done a nice thing, and I think he deserves credit when this sort of thing is done. This was in Time magazine. I just have the essentials of it here. A 9-year-old gorilla in the Phoenix, Arizona zoo, you probably read about this, needed a mate, and they had no way to get it there. And this sounds like it's going to be one of those jokes, but it's not. The problem was solved by Hugh Hefner. He lent them his Playboy jet. Read about this? And they got the zoo officials in Baltimore so they could fly a male gorilla into Phoenix where they needed it. So the people in Phoenix, if you see a pregnant gorilla, remember that Hugh Hefner is responsible. Well, they didn't come out right. Why don't we see how the show is? We have a show following this. Gloria Swanson is here, who says she has a surprise announcement to make, and Janis Joplin, who always does, and remarkable young actress Margot Kidder, and Dave Meggyesy, who's writing that book that pro football is a little frightened about that's going to come out sometime. I couldn't wait to hear about that, so he's going to be here. And now, here's where we show our appreciation for the monologue and move into the program. We'll be right back. Tonight I would like to welcome station KJ-TV, Channel 17. That's in Bakersfield, California, which carries the show at 11:30. I have to go out there and see it. Monday through Friday. That's 11:30 at night, not in the morning, of course. Hello, Bakersfield. Say, someone sent me this, which is sort of interesting. It's TV news. It's from the Chicago paper, actually. And it's the Sunday television magazine. And there's an article about David Frost. And it's called The Year That Was for David Frost by Cynthia Lowry. And it's a very long article. And, of course, when they print these articles, they always print the picture with them. And I thought you would like to see this picture because I know him, and I think this is probably this is a blow-up of the page from the article, probably one of the best photographs of David that I've ever seen. Can you see that? That's the actual page. I'm looking forward to development of the 48-hour day, says peripatetic David Frost. It's that wonderful climate in England that gives them that nice complexion like that. Anyway, I just thought I would do that. Thank you for the people who sent that in, and this is the Della Reese Show. Now, I would like to meet a lady who has been called a combination of Lead Belly and a steam engine and Calamity Jane and Bessie Smith. I don't know who called her that combination, but it's strange. Anyway, she is certainly one of the most distinctive female performers in the music business. I mean, of course, Janis Joplin. Yeah.
Your love brings life to me. Your love. Your love brings life to me. Yeah. Spilled coffee on my hand.
Don't spill coffee on me.
Yeah.
Very nice to see you, my little songbird. That was Beautiful Dreamer, wasn't it? You know, I always feel sort of funny because the last time you were here, you didn't find my shoes. I wore my hip jacket for you, however.
You did?
Yes, you did.
Are you sure?
I thought I did. Yes, isn't this what all the guys are wearing? I never know.
No, not all of them.
Not all of them, eh? Say, you've got a group now, and naturally, as you can see, Janis was not on stage alone, and I never mentioned their name. Yeah, it's important. It's sort of silly of me to slough them off like...
Full Tilt Boogie.
Full Tilt Boogie is the actual name of the group? Janis Joplin and...
No, just Janis Joplin, Full Tilt Boogie.
One long word.
Yeah.
What does the title mean? Anything
What
hard
does the
to...
title mean? It means boogie, man.
But where does the phrase Full Tilt Boogie come from? Is that
From a friend of mine who walked into the dressing room one night and said, "Is everybody ready for Full Tilt Boogie?"
Yeah? What if he'd yelled something horrible? Would you have called the group that?
He yells a lot of horrible things, and we just picked that one.
That's good.
From amongst the many things he says.
Say, lately, you know, rock has been in the news because there have been rock concerts where a riot... Have you ever been at a concert where a riot broke out? Or have you ever been at a riot that turned into a concert? Or what am I trying to say? It's the coffee you gave me that affected me.
None of the shows I've ever played have ever had any trouble, save one in Philadelphia where a cop clubbed a girl for trying to kiss me, and I didn't dig it.
A fan who just tried to get...
Yeah, a girl just wanted to say, "Hi, you know, I love you," and a cop, dush, bang, throw her away. Sometimes they overreact. But I can dig where an audience would get uptight if they bought tickets and nobody came except them, you know.
Yeah. Well, there are those performers who don't have a totally professional sense of responsibility, aren't there?
They're called hippies, yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I don't want you to cast aspersions on my hippie friends. Wait a minute. Can you hold on here for just a moment? Because I have now... It's a point where I have to say something. I have to hold up something. How about the Bank of America? What can I hold up? Oh, this.
No,
There's
that's
a sign.
mine.
No, there's a very confusing sign that says "Hold up something."
Those are mine.
They're yours?
I think I did. No, those are
swear.
mine.
Oh, all right. Well, it said hold up glasses, and now brace yourselves for one of the zaniest westerns yet, starring a bunch of very seedy gunslingers in Foster Grant Clip-On's watch. I heard that you have a peculiar limousine service. Someone mentioned that to me. What does that mean? Do you have...
It's Love Limousine, run by a really groovy dude named John Fisher, who has the windows are purple,
Yeah.
you know, and has 13 speakers all mounted around.
This is in a limousine?
Yeah,
13
and
speakers?
a big tape deck with everybody you want to hear, and you just get in and you're like in an isolated environment with all this fantastic music coming in your brain, and then when you wake up, you're at the airport or, you know, wherever you have to go to.
Do you ever feel odd riding in a limousine?
I always sit in the front seat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to think of. What's funny about the front seat?
Well, when you're riding a limousine, you're supposed to lay back in the back seat.
I know it, but you
I always sit up in the front seat so I can look at everybody, you know.
Don't you ever feel funny when people, you know, it stops for a light and people stare, and if you're when you're riding in a limousine and they go, yeah, you know.
No, he's
And
a very
even
good.
worse things?
He's a very good driver.
The driver's good.
They're all afraid of him on the street.
That's how you know he's a good driver.
Yeah. Nobody yells at us. I call that pretty good.
That is good. Do you ever water ski?
No. I don't think I've seen a lake in about 8 years, man.
Really?
No, we flew over one last week. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not much on sports.
Did I seem to walk strangely as I came out here tonight?
I should have watched closer.
Well, and you were back there, but
yeah.
I water ski for the first time over the weekend.
Did you get
And
up?
that's what they always ask, isn't it? I water skied. I know. Well, that's the sensitive thing. I water skied 15 times for approximately 8 seconds each time, and I had to quit. I mean, I have muscles that you would never use in real life that hurt.
Well, that's why I don't do it.
Yeah,
Why bother?
But next time I know that it's going to work. It's just that I did finally get up, but I keel hauled myself, I think, a couple of times. Do you know what keel hauling is?
I have no idea. No.
In the old days when in the pirate days, they would drag a guy behind a ship.
Really?
Yeah. They did it in Mutiny on the Bounty.
Sorry?
And I was down and do you want to hear about this?
Oh, I'd love, yeah. Tell me, how were you?
Can you contain yourself?
How were you?
How was I?
Here, pretend this is the robe.
Yeah. Oh, you know about it. Well, this was the thing you hold on to.
Oh, yeah,
And you're
right.
down like this, right? And you got both legs up like that. And the boat started off, and I stayed that way. It takes...
That's pretty
The
uncomfortable.
whole ocean was fighting every muscle in my body. The people had said they'd never seen anything like it. No one told me to stand up. I couldn't see what the fun of it was. Would you care to... Oh, have you had any problems with... How are your press relations? Do you have any problems with interviews and that kind of stuff?
Well, other than having to do them when you don't feel like it,
Yeah.
and other than having to talk to someone who doesn't seem to understand what you're saying, consequently the words coming out a little stranger than you meant them, no.
No.
Yeah.
Would you care to croon another tune for us, Miss
Love to,
Joplin?
man. Love to.
Would you like to see that? No? Yes? I always hope an audience will say no sometimes. You take a... Tell you, it's
I
behind
can't
that.
reach my band.
There, I'll feel while you're...
And when I work hard on her all day long, I tell you it don't seem to bother me no. Cause how could anything ever go wrong? Honey, when I got me my baby, oh yeah. Yes, I got my
back after this message from our local stations. Gloria Swanson, others. Stay with us.
It's really cheap.
How'd you like your Foster Grants?
They're fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to send me a case, because I lose them all the time.
Do you? Yeah.
Yes, hello, Foster Grant.
Say, do you...
Send me a case of purple sunglasses.
You're not allowed to solicit personal messages like that? Or... Do you think that rock concerts have such a bad name now that it's gonna cut into the business?
No.
I mean, because there have been one or two riots. There haven't been that many, but...
No, there haven't been
there
that
have
many.
been a couple.
And, well, it's just like a problem of logistics, like the same thing that happened to Haight-Ashbury. You know, at the beginning, not many people knew about it. Consequently, it was just all nice and quiet. But then everybody found it was so groovy, they all wanted to come. Well, now they're getting very big, and to have a good festival, I think you have to have a lot of organizational ability and a lot of talent, you know, and a lot of bread to put the thing together so it'll be, you know, even functionable for the audience, let alone for the groups. You know, like you got to have all that equipment and all that advertising and all that bread and all those people and all that kind of stuff.
There ought to be maybe one group that specializes in staging them and planning them so that people could call them in.
There's several trying to do that,
yeah,
but not making it to you know. But like there's a couple coming off in August, the 6th, I believe, and the 9th. The 6th in Philadelphia, in Shea Stadium, and the 9th in Philadelphia. Peace festivals that Peter Yarrow sort of throwing together. There, a lot of groups are contributing their services, and they're going to give all the bread to peace candidates. You know, they've got some real straight people to administer it, so it isn't a rip-off. You know.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, not a lot of people in hip clothes like mine. Can we take a station break? We'll be back with Gloria Swanson if we can, or may. Remember the line in Sunset Boulevard, and Gloria Swanson said they don't make faces like that anymore? Here is a lovely lady, Miss Gloria Swanson. Give you a long enough entrance to fill all the music.
Here's something for you that you can give to people as your card.
Please don't make a big fuss over me. Just treat me as you would any other brilliant person. You hang funny signs on your wall?
No, but
Don't just sit there worry. I think there's one of those in my office. Why are you handing out cards, Miss Swanson?
because I thought they were very amusing for you especially.
Well, you're very kind.
Like any other brilliant person.
Oh.
How do you
Geez,
do?
Silver-tongued devil, you.
I beg your pardon? What'd you say?
Said you were a silver-tongued devil.
No, those are not mine. Those are not mine. I wish they were. They were given to me, and I thought you might use them.
Thank you very much. Thank you for, you sent me a photograph of a sculpture you did. It was very nice.
Oh, yes, you got that.
Yeah. You're still after my features?
Yes, I am.
Yeah?
I want to do his head. You know what I mean by that?
Yes, I do.
Do his head is a little bit awkward, isn't it?
I don't know.
You think she knows what we mean by that?
I don't know what anyone's talking about.
Well, I must say I
You
find
people
it
use your inside terms and they just go right over my head.
No,
Yes,
I
she's a
sent a
sculptor.
photograph of a bust I made of myself, a head, with mirrors. And so I wanted to do his head. And it sounds so funny to say, I want to do your head.
I know, it's...
Bust doesn't sound any better
What's wrong?
either. I want to do your bust.
Do your bust is no good. I guess not. I would like to sculpt you, I think, is probably the best
But
thing
that
you can
sounds
say.
odd, doesn't it?
Sounds a little blunt. Yeah. You have an announcement to make, or something I was told. I didn't know whether to mention it now, or if you want to wait a little while, or
Well,
let
you
it
can
simmer
mention
a
it now
bit.
if you want to mention it now. I'm quite excited.
Or we could
about
build
it.
up some suspense.
Well, I think I'll do that anyway, build up some suspense. You know, I was going to do Coco, then I was going to do something else. And so, at long last, I'm really going to do a play that's playing here in New York and also in Chicago. And also, I must look at this note because it's odd places. For instance, Turkey and Johannesburg, South Africa. It's playing at this very moment. And they're going to go from there into all kinds of places like Denmark and Argentina and Chile and Brazil and Mexico. So I'm going to do it this coming up in October.
Oh, you're not going to be in all those places. But
No,
the
I'm
play's
not
be
going to,
here.
but I'm going to be all over the United States.
You're going to
I'm
tour
really- yes,
in the old
I am.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, that's wonderful.
I think it's
People
exciting.
can see
And the play is
a star in the
it's
flesh.
so beautiful because it's one of those plays that everybody can see without embarrassment, because some people do get a little pink in the face at some of the plays, in which I can understand. And so this is one, obviously, for all languages and all people and all generations. And it's called Butterflies Are Beautiful. And it's quite, I think it's going to be a classic. It's quite lovely. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I don't
Well,
know
you
a
should,
thing
because
about it.
You don't? It's been playing for quite some time.
I know, but I'm so behind on the theater scene.
Yes,
I just don't.
I can imagine so.
With this
Being
job,
here,
it's very
yes.
hard to get out to plays.
Well, it's about a blind boy, and it's very interesting. And I'm
Oh,
sure
wait.
some...
You don't mean butterflies are free?
Well, didn't I say that?
I think you said butterflies are beautiful.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Well, it is beautiful. Butterflies
They are
free.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah, I know that play. Yeah, that did very well. And
well,
you're
they're
going to
still...
tour all over America.
Yes,
with
they're
it.
still doing it, you know. They're still playing it here.
Did you ever do that? Did you ever tour the country in the old...
Well, I have done it in summer stock. Yes, I did do it in one or two things, like
Mm-hmm.
Three Curtains. I did 3 one-act plays. One was Shaw's Man of Destiny, and James Barrie's Old Lady Shows Her Medals,
Mm-hmm.
and Panera's Playgoers. I toured in that. And I've been around in many places, either with the picture, you know, a picture that I've done, or someone else's picture, or my clothes business, or whatever. I know.
That's a nice announcement. I thought maybe you were going to announce you were getting married again. No, last time you were here, you revealed that you had been married 5 times.
Did I?
Yeah.
What a good memory you have. I don't.
I agree.
You don't remember all 5 of them, huh?
No, as a matter of fact, you put them all together, and I don't think I was married more than 6 years.
Is that right?
No.
Are you optimistic or terribly romantic, or are you just a silly?
No, you know what I am? I'm a romanticist. I cannot stand to see anything to get into a rut. I don't care what it is. I'd be taken for granted. I can't stand this. And
That's
I think
certainly
it's a
the enemy
pity.
of marriage, a romantic idea.
Well, the end of it?
Sure. The enemy of marriage.
Oh, the enemy, yes.
Sure,
If you
because-
lose it and it becomes so, you know, like, I don't know, just dull. And I don't think this should be that. I think it should be the first thing that happens, I've often noticed that people who don't have children right away, they're inclined to have, I think, a longer marriage. And I know some couples that have no children whatsoever. Now, what happens is that they continue to do the things together that interested them before they were married, with not the triangle, with not that third person there, and then now the problem of the babysitter. So the honeymoon is quite short, and I'm sorry, but I like the honeymoon. And I don't want it to be here today and gone tomorrow. And I like somebody writing a little note and putting it in my purse and finding it, or under the door or whatever. I like all of this. I like somebody to think. It isn't a question what the person gives you, it's the thought behind it. And I think too many of them get too staid, and it becomes a routine. And I don't think it should. I think it's a pity to have something as beautiful as that could be if each one was worried about the other person and about trying to, well, play jokes together and, you know, have fun and have the same interests if you possibly can.
So you've celebrated your wedding anniversary by another wedding occasionally.
That's right.
I see. Here's a word about Stay Puff and Stay Flow. You remember them. Talking with 2 stars in a different field. Oh, now all you gorgeous women can have pretty feet, too. As well as what? Janis Joplin and Gloria Swanson. What? Oh, I made no transition there. I'm sorry. Do you, Miss Swanson, fight the battle of the midi, the mini, and I was trying to gauge the length of your costume
I wonder
dress.
if the ladies saw it when I came in. Did you see that it was
It's a little longer,
in
isn't it?
between? But you
Yeah.
know, this is really you were on a cloud then in the 1938 probably. And in the 30s, this is the way we dressed. I have to stand up to show you this.
Stand up. I'll also have to stand up, too.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Well, I have to sit.
There.
Oh, I have to sit down to see?
Now that's it. I don't think that length is bad. Do you?
No.
You like it?
I don't
Well, the
mind.
men don't usually.
It isn't, you know, it's...
Yes, but now look what happened. See? Now that's a long coat, but the dress is short. See?
So you have the best of 2 worlds.
3 worlds.
Yeah, you got several lengths. I don't get too excited about the lengths of dresses, do you?
I think you should wear what's most becoming.
Sure.
Well, I don't like that. I like that or that. You know, it's not very flattering to a woman's legs, I don't think.
I know. There's one length that seems like you cannot make up your mind,
Makes you
and
look klutzy.
that's the one that bothers
Well,
me.
I just stood up in it because that's the in-between one, the midi.
That's nice.
But on you, it looks fine. I don't know what it is. Maybe you have the stature for it, or something like
Really?
that.
Yes, at 5'2".
You're all
No,
of
5'1" I think I am. I've shrunk.
Could I ask you about a thing that film buffs know about? There's a mysterious movie that you were involved in one time called Queen Kelly.
Oh, mysterious.
Well, it never was seen, was it?
Well, of course it's been seen in the museums, but anyway.
Well, then that's not the right one. There
Yes,
was one.
it is. Yes, it is.
There was
That's
one
it.
that you left or something.
I was producing it, and I walked off the set and
That's
knew
it.
that it was all going to be on the cutting room floor because in those days we really had censorship. We had a man that we were scared to death of, and his name was Will Hayes, and he was the czar. And if he said you couldn't do something, he meant it, because in those days we had women's clubs who would boycott your pictures, and of course then there would be no help to the studio you were working for. And this organization had okayed the script, but what Mr. von Stroheim was doing, true wit, when he got alone on the set, was quite different. A dance hall became one of those places, you know.
No.
And that they closed down in France. They've closed them down all over the place, but they still exist, you know.
Well, you mean it was written as a dance hall, but
Yeah.
when you got there, it was something
Yeah,
else?
well, there it was. I mean, obviously it was one of those places, and I knew it would be on the cutting room floor, and so I was responsible for the money, and I didn't like the money going down the drain.
Well, let me ask you how you knew that it was, where you learned that it was one of those places. Where did you learn it?
Because, quite frankly,
I mean, when you got there for the day to work? No, what I'm asking is, when did you find out? When they started shooting? Had the dialogue been changed?
yes, well, it had been, for instance, I had been in France, I'd been all over the place, and I'm not exactly a prude, and I had heard about brothels, if you want the word. And also, I'd heard what goes. I was in Germany when boys were dressing like girls in 1922. I saw them, and they were so beautiful. The men thought they were girls, but they weren't. So I have seen everything, so that a lot of what's going on today is kind of, in some instances, a bad imitation. But at any rate,
But it shouldn't be illegal just because somebody up there doesn't like it. I mean, like
well, in
when
those
you were when
days-
you were making movies, like this XYZ was considered risque and you couldn't do it. Well, now they're doing it. Well, back then you couldn't drink because they didn't like it, you know, right?
Well, you couldn't-
Now you can't smoke grass. Now, back then you couldn't be a flapper because they didn't like it, and now you can't play rock and roll. That seems to me that the people that went through all that prohibition and flapper and all that time should realize that, you know, young people are always crazy, you know, and to leave us alone.
well, at the time they don't. In those days, you couldn't even knit or crochet a booty.
In a movie?
In a movie, because then they'd say you're pregnant. No, I'm not making this up. This is absolutely the truth.
I still haven't found out how you found out that the scene you thought was a dance
You
hall.
will never, because I had seen it, I had
Because
read
it
about
looks
it.
like one, man.
Well, you had your.
You mean when they yelled action, they meant action?
No, it wasn't that. It was a dance hall with a mixture of a lot of different races, and it was obviously, and people who knew about it naturally knew that this was wrong. And this is Mr. von Stroheim wanting to be, as he was a heck of a great director, he wanted realism, and he was going to have it. But he should not have put it in the script if he knew that it was going to be on the cutting room floor.
Well, all I meant was, did you find out that when you got there to report for work, that what you thought was one thing was something else? Did you find
Yes,
out when you got
and also a few other things, which it is 9 o'clock in the morning to have someone drooling tobacco juice on your hand wasn't exactly appetizing to me, and since I knew that would also be on the cutting room floor, because it was my picture, I was producing it. I was not only the actress in it, but I was responsible for the money, and also I was producing it, and I knew what he had been doing. Although the bankers had wanted to put 2 people in charge so that this wouldn't happen, I don't know where these two people were because they didn't see what was going on. I was on the set every day, so naturally working, I knew what was going on.
Over the director?
Well, he was a little difficult to control, and this is why they had put somebody in charge of just watching him, like nursemaiding him, you know.
That's Eric von Stroheim.
Yes. And so I just went to, said, excuse me, and went to the telephone in my bungalow and called New York and called the bankers and said that most of what we're shooting is going to be on the cutting room floor, plus the fact that we're now over time, over schedule, over budget, everything, and most of it's going to be cut out because you can't take 20 reels and make 1/3 of a picture out of it. This is when pictures were only an hour and 20 minutes, you know.
So you took a financial bath, as they say.
I certainly did.
Wow.
But it was all paid back by the next talking picture. You know the theme song they were playing for me, Love Your Magic Spell Is Everywhere?
Yeah.
Well,
that
was the first talking picture, the picture that I did right after Queen Kelly, and all the profits of that, not all of it, but a great deal of money went to paying the bankers back for the losses on Queen Kelly, which was on a shelf, and now a lot of people...
Can it be seen today?
Well, it's a sort of an unfinished thing if somebody wants to see it, but I must say, the youngsters are amazing to me. They have a passion for old pictures, and they have a tremendous interest in it, and they are keeping them alive, actually. Yeah. What the studios, I wish we'd had more youngsters watching it then. The film, they've allowed it to disintegrate. Most of them are sawdust now.
I heard a story where in one studio they had barrels and barrels of old nitrate films, the only prints, and they had a fire scene that they needed to make for another movie, and they burned the film for
please
it.
Don't. Just
Someone said
Queen Kelly was in, not Queen Kelly, but Madame Saint-Jean was probably in that one.
Might have been. We talked about that, I think.
Yes,
it's a nice thing, I'm reading this now, it's a nice thing to get a lift from a commercial, so get ready for one, because you're going to get a lift right now from the people at Pepsi. My next guest made only 2 films, the latest of which is called Quaxer, Fortune Has a Cousin in the Bronx. And it just opened, I think, this past month. And she's a young actress, just beginning, and that'd be interesting to compare her experiences with Miss Swanson's talented and lovely lady, Margot Kidder. No bare feet. See the signs everywhere during the summer, no bare feet. I just thought I'd startle you with that. You may have bare feet. In fact, you do.
I do. In Japan, that's considered more dirty than having a naked body.
To have bare feet?
Yeah, that's very bad.
Well, in some people's cases
or
it
China.
is.
Maybe it's China. One of them.
I don't know.
It's not done.
Bare feet are considered obscene in some...
Obscene, yeah.
Wow. I hope we're not seen in whatever country that is. What have you brought me?
I'm from Vancouver, and this was in the Vancouver paper, and it was an article by a woman whose name I've forgotten, and she was talking about the 10 most sexy men in North America, and she says, and last but hardly the least is television's Dick Cavett. He alone is going to usher in the era of the sexy leprechaun. Cavett is scared of women. That's his charm. He hides behind his wit like a brave coward with the face of a cowboy hero, a two-fisted pixie.
Oh.
There you go.
Could you vomit from that? What is that?
It's
a two-fisted pixie.
What does that mean?
Oh, get this chicken knuckle.
No, listen, you're the...
Who wants a two-fisted pixie?
But
Have you ever heard of anybody saying, I'm just dying to find a two-fisted pixie?
Do you know what I say when I was on the desert? I used to say, let me know when Angel Face comes on. And I'd come in the room and look
And
at
you were talking about me?
Yes.
You're weird too, then. What is this?
You are one of the 10 most sexy men in North America.
What was the part about last, though?
Hardly the least, it says.
I'm last but hardly the least. Could you underline that part? What? That is really about as nauseating a little thing as I've ever run into.
I don't think it is.
No?
No.
A two-fisted pixie, so I almost got it wrong. Well, how are you otherwise?
I'm great.
How would you like to have people writing things like that about you they don't even know about? Who is this woman?
She wrote a book called The Sensuous Woman.
Oh, it's that babe, is it?
Did you have her
Yes,
on?
the woman who wrote Sensuous Woman. No, Jay is her name. She's a mysterious woman who
No,
calls
she
herself
revealed her
Jay.
name. She revealed
And she
her
did
name.
reveal her name, and
But
it
I
slipped my
forgot it.
mind again, which probably will put me in 11th place if you watch the show tonight. But that's interesting. So you live in Vancouver,
you know,
but how
your
come?
ear is red. I think you're blushing.
Only my ears blush.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, I do. Talk about things like that always sort of bothers me. I don't know what it is.
But your ears?
Yeah. Well, how do you expect a two-fisted pixie to react? That's the worst thing I ever heard. You live in Vancouver, but you're an actress. Actresses are generally found in Los Angeles or New York. How can you be this? How is that possible?
Well, I don't much like Los Angeles or New York as a place to live.
Really?
No, in Vancouver I have mountains and a beach and...
So you've gone Vancouver on us.
I've gone Vancouver, yeah. 100%.
How old were you when you started in movies, if that isn't too personal?
That's not personal.
No?
No. I did TV and stuff, starting at 16.
Yeah.
And TV and film, and then I've only done 2 American films.
Why have I gotten the impression from something I read about you that you can take acting or leave it?
That's right.
Is that why I have?
That's why.
Now, what does
Yeah.
that mean? You mean if somebody said to you, you cannot make a film again, would you be you'd say, okay.
Well, right now, I'm learning how to edit so that I won't always have to be an actress.
You can edit film.
I'm learning. I'm learning the CBC in Canada, which is like BBC in London. It's government-sponsored TV, is letting me learn the technical stuff there. And then also Bob Altman, who's editing the film he just shot in Texas, in Vancouver, because he's moving up to Vancouver, has said I could hang around and be assistant to the assistant. So that's really neat.
If you end up on the cutting room floor, you can put others there.
Right.
We have
Snip
a
'em
message
out.
from our local station, and we'll be right back. Talking to Janis Joplin, Gloria Swanson, and Margot Kidder. What was that?
I said I learned a trick that the actresses did in the movies in the 20s and the 30s. I had to do a test in Hollywood, and I had to wear, you know those very slinky satin dresses that you wore no underwear under at all? I couldn't figure out why actresses in the old movies always had hard nipples, and it just looked so sexy. And I found out I asked the director finally, and he told me it's because they always kept ice cubes in the dressing room. And isn't that wild? Isn't that incredible? That it just blew. I shouldn't have said that, right?
Well, I've got a story to tell you about a girdle.
It's all right. You can mention ice cubes on this show. Doesn't matter at all.
Do you know I invented the panty girdle?
You did?
Yes, because
Well,
of
you
the
ought to
movies.
get a medal.
Well, I want to tell you why. Because nobody knew this, but I was going to have a child in about 6 months. And I was wearing a white satin gown from Coco Chanel. And the girdles that we had in those days came up too high.
Yeah.
See, so I had a little lump there. Now, of course, I was weighing a lot more than I weigh now. Now I'm trying to gain weight. So I said to this corseteer, to this woman, look, I've got to do something about that bump there. Now do something about it. And she said, what? And I said, well, can't you make the elastic girdle come down to here? Well, I'll tell you what happened. So and I took bloomers we wore in those days, bloomers. And they were made of they were made of silk. And someone in the audience will remember this. And I said, you see these, and I want you to go away, and I want you to make some in elasticize. In those days, they only seemed to pull one way. She said, oh, madame, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. How are you going to you-know-what? I said, never mind how I'm going to do you-know-what. And I said, go away and come back. Well, 10 days later...
10 days?
10 days later, my maid came in to me and said, I was in the dressing room in the bungalow, and said, somebody wants to see you in the sitting room. And I went in there, and standing by itself was this thing in the center of the room. Exactly, if you please, like one of those armor suits.
Sure.
And I looked at this, and because in those days they had it was like canvas. They don't have the soft. Now we have the chiffon stuff that looks like lace, and you can pull it.
Sure.
Here's this thing sitting there. Now the problem was, how am I going to get into it? So I said, come on, I'll get in, but now I have to have you pull on this side, you pull on this side, and somebody in the back. Now as they pulled, 1, 2, 3, go, my head went down and my bottom went up. So we got so hysterical, all of us, we piled up on the floor. We were laughing so
I thought you were going to say they fired you into New Jersey or something.
The problem of getting into this thing. I didn't worry about how I was going to
But
get
how
out.
did you... The thing about those clothes is that anything you wear underneath shows. I mean, I
No,
couldn't even
but
wear...
it didn't, because I had it come up to here, you see. I didn't need anything from here up. And I got rid of that because it came down to there. And when my satin dress moved, it caught the thigh. And I don't happen to have a big thigh to begin with, so I was all right. It was just that lump there.
Well,
and the lump here it took care of, too. So anyway...
Well, as
that was
fascinating
it.
as this is, if you ladies want me to leave while you talk like this, I don't mind at all. Our local stations have a message. Our next guest was one of pro football's most ferocious linebackers, and then he decided that football was not only too violent for him, but maybe corrupting himself and the country. Dave Meggyesy is his name. He's written a book which is not out yet. It's called Out of This League, but a lot of people are dreading its publication and are not looking forward to it. And I thought it'd be interesting to hear something about it ahead of time. Will you welcome, please, Dave Meggyesy. I'd know you as a football player anywhere.
Right, yeah.
Well, why is there so many people are not looking forward to your book? I've heard so much about it. And how bad was football on you? Did it louse up your values, or is that
Well,
putting it too?
I don't know if it loused them up. I think it kind of bent my head around in some strange ways, for sure.
Tell me about that, though. You played in high school. You were a high school football star. Were you, in any sense, corrupted by the sport in high school?
Yeah, I think that, I went to a small high school in a cow town. The cows used to come out and watch us play the games Friday night.
The actual cows.
They actually did, right?
Yeah.
And I was a poor kid, a scratch. My father was a farmer, and I went to a high school that was, I guess you might sociologically call upper middle class, and that was my entree into making it, and I did, by being a good football player.
Yeah. Well, where did it begin to go sour for you, in what way?
I think, Dick, it went sour for me really after, or began to, after my sophomore year in college at Syracuse University. And I had a great year up there my first year, and then after that it was kind of a downhill slide. And played 7 years in the pros with the Cardinals, and that was about it.
Well, what do you dislike about it? You've said that football glorifies violence. That may even be a quote from the book, or at least it's appeared in the talk
copy,
about
right.
the book.
That's
Anyway.
been, right. Yeah, I think it does. I think the whole raison d'etre of football is violence. It's institutional violence. A man by the name of Thomas Morgan wrote a piece in Esquire about 3 years ago called "The American War Game." Red Blake, a former coach at Army, has talked about the values of football being the same values that you find in life, the important values to stress, and some of these are obedience and respect for authority, and to be able to exhibit a certain kind of physical courage on the football field. And football players are thought to be people who exhibit this tremendous amount of courage, but it's a question about we all feel fear in it. There are very few guys that I know who are really, truly love to hit, love to stick it in there.
Are there guys who are scared?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I remember in
Sure,
Plimpton's book he talked about, I forget who the player was, who was the guy who used to vomit before each game?
Yeah, well, we got a guy from Detroit, Ernie Clark, and Ernie, the way Ernie used to beat it, he'd go in the locker room, and one of the interesting things we do is, pros, we say the Lord's Prayer before the game. It's like everybody blesses the guns, The other team's doing the same, and so Ernie would be and it'd be quiet, and Ernie would be in the trainer's room, and you'd hear this banging on the wall. And what Ernie would be doing, he'd be smashing his helmet into the concrete wall to kind of get himself ready for the contact. And one time he did it so hard he split his helmet. He came staggering out of the thing, and it would be cracked on his helmet. Right.
Wow.
You pray like, "Oh Lord, make me big and bad today."
Well, no, you just say the Lord's Prayer, and say,
What does that have to do with doing unto others as you had them doing to you?
Hell, I don't know, Janice. That's one of the inconsistencies in the whole thing, right? And one of the right. And I think it's.
We'll have more war if we don't have those kind of games here, because people have to get rid of. It's just like youngsters being handed play guns, a toy that's a gun. They grow up not knowing, having any fear for it or respect for this horrible, lethal.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think football serves a function, and I see it as a kind of dichotomous function. And on one hand, it titillates people by glorifying violence in the sense that football is the only major sport in this country whose sole raison d'etre, in other words, its basis is violence. In other words, I can't, if you're a tight end and I'm playing opposite you, John Mackey, and I can't, psych you out and fake you out and put moves on you. At some point it comes to a showdown and I have to defeat you. I have to do violence to your person, or you have to do violence to my person.
But everybody expects that as part of the game.
And I think that, all right, this is the titillating function, but the pacifying function is, and I've experienced this out on the field, if like a guy really gets stuck really hard and you hear the fans go, ooh, like that. It has this kind of effect of, letting it down. And by the time the fans are through with 60 minutes, I mean, they're kind of wrung out. And I think it does serve that function in the society. And I see it as a negative thing, though, because
but it's also the daddies sitting up in the, watching the whole thing. They're just right back there on the field and go.
Yeah, it's a whole vicarious.
Why is it a negative thing, though? If it serves a valuable purpose.
Well,
this thing Conrad Lorenz talks about the ritual among animals, and that football, in a sense, is the acting out of that ritual that's been deprived of defending your territory and defeating someone. And
it's a good,
maybe it's a good.
No, let me just finish this, because I think that. Yeah, the safety valve is, and I think that it's kind of like you take people's minds off of, what's really bugging them and the real problems that they have to face, and in their own personal lives. And it's like, as I've said, Middle America's theater. It's Nixon's theater, and it's laid out every Sunday for people. It was interesting, and this, if you remember when John Kennedy was assassinated. The National Football League played their games, and the country was, at that time...
2 days later.
Right. The country in that time was in a period of mourning.
Yeah.
And Roselle, the commissioner, made the decision that we should play football because we needed to pull the country back together. It's the idea, if everything if we can play football, then our country's not disintegrating, that kind of thing. It's really weird, but that's how I read it.
Are you suggesting that he didn't believe that, or that he did believe it and
Well, I
that
think
he's
that
wrong?
there are a lot of things operating on him. Certainly the owners who were going to lose their stadiums full of people, and television people who had a lot to lose.
When you were at Syracuse, now that's a good college for, obviously for football, because of all the guys that have come out of it.
Yeah, outlaw school.
What?
It's an outlaw school.
What does that mean?
Well, there are certain schools that make pretenses of their ball players having academic credentials, and Syracuse isn't one of them.
It's not.
The function up there is you go there to play football, and it was really interesting because, if you contrast like a Ben Schwartzwalder versus a Bud Wilkinson, Wilkinson is going to teach you all these values. He's going to say, look, you've got to be humble, contrite, polite, clean-cut, the whole trip, and stay out of bars and away from loose women. But Schwartzwalder, if you produced, you could do any damn thing you pleased. And
which of those guys is right?
Well, I think that given the nature of football, I think Schwartzwalder is, and given the nature of what college football does to the individual players, one of the most interesting, one of the most exploited minorities in the country, are college football players. They get paid approximately 25 cents an hour.
There's a few others.
Yeah, no, obviously true, Janice, but I'm just saying is that a guy earns, you say, the argument is that we're giving these guys a college education. All right, out of my class at Syracuse, one guy graduated. Okay,
Out of your, that kind of trend among the football players.
Yeah, other football players. Out of my class, one guy graduated.
Do they really do all their class work?
Well, I had a brother once who he was a hell of a football player. My brother Dennis, and he needed some grades. So he signed up for these courses in summer school, and he went back to Cleveland and worked, and came back, and he had him as 6 units of A's. So I mean, that's the kind of.
Wait a minute, what was wrong?
Somebody else took the class.
Well, no, they just filled him in on the records,
Oh, I see.
Right, keep him eligible. You have to maintain your eligibility, which is the C average for approximately 15 hours at Syracuse. So this is in one sense the reason for the book is to really talk about this reality. I think most people who really dig football think it's pure American, young Americans out there doing their thing, and reflects all these positive values of society. And on the contrary, I think it reflects more values that we want to de-emphasize. And I say we of, the counterculture, as Rozak has defined, people of the movement and so on.
You like cheating
I have to
and
ask you to hold for just a minute.
Well,
We're
just the
from our local stations, and we'll be back. Talking to Dave Meggyesy about his book, which will be out when?
October, and it's Ramparts Press is doing the publication. They're in Berkeley, and I'm living out in Berkeley now, so we've got a nice relationship going.
They say that, well, you hear sometimes anyway, that a guy who is there on a football scholarship and is doing well can get away with just about anything he wants to and still stay in school. What are some of the what are some of the anythings he can get away with? How true is that?
We had one guy who threw a bowling ball out of an eight-story dormitory at the RA. The RA is a resident advisor. He's a guy that corrals the people. And he was apprehended because he was pretty juiced. And he said his only regret was that he didn't hit him. And just he and the guy. But he stayed there. He stuck. I mean, there are just various stories. I think you can get in kind of a war story thing of telling how bad a certain guy was. And Syracuse had its group.
Yeah.
And,
Don't a lot of guys think you're a traitor, though, to the cause, a Benedict Arnold to football?
Oh, wow,
why don't you just
question.
keep quiet and let us make a lot of money and some
No, I really don't.
If you
Listen,
don't like it, get out.
No, I'll tell you why. Because after the season last year, Jack Scott, who has just been written up in Locus, the guru of Sports Revolution, I think you saw that piece. Jack was teaching a course at Cal Berkeley, and he invited me out to be a guest lecturer, and I went out and did that trip. But while I was doing that, I got to talk to the scholarship football players. It was interesting because this course was run by a professor who believes that grades are totally irrelevant, and his idea is that learning something is the most important aspect of it, not the product, which is the grade. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, you could receive any grade that you wanted to. So there's a liaison man in the Cal Athletic Department that any free courses like this, he'll shoot great numbers of ball players to. So we had a captive audience of about 20 guys, 20 football players. And I was able to rap to them, and I found out that just the opposite, that their gripes in the way that they've been psychologically kind of run over in high school and college, that they really feel what's happening. They really feel that they're being kind of outsiders now. They feel their exploitation, and they want a platform for articulation. And I was really anticipating, they were going to waylay me in the parking lot or something. We're going to have a battle, but just the opposite.
People assume that jocks are generally right-wingers in some sense. I mean, I'm oversimplifying everything here, but it's surprising. There have been a lot of things lately where I think 66 players protested on Columbia alone, on their team, protested the Cambodian
Yeah, well,
invasion.
last year we had the Cardinals. I did a petition last season for the October 15th moratorium. We had 37 guys sign it, calling for immediate withdrawal of troops in Vietnam. And so I don't think that always holds true, but you can kind of assume that it's true, and I think that most people do assume that football players are right-wingers because they feel kind of intuitively of what kind of values that football is trying to teach people. And football is that kind of a game for the participant and for the spectator.
What would you do about it?
What would I do about it to change it? I really don't know.
You don't want it eliminated from the scene, do you?
Well, I don't know, Dick. I'm really, in a dilemma on that, and to be very frank about it. I certainly would de-emphasize it and attempt to return the game as such to the players, to let them have the decision-making. One of the things that I don't think the Players Association ever realized, but we could have had a football season this year without the owners. The Players Association could have contracted with probably some TV network, hired the stadiums, and played football. And
I think they settled that just before we went on.
Right, I haven't seen
sure
the paper
what the
today,
details
so
are.
I don't really know either.
What makes a bad coach?
What makes a bad coach? I found it interesting that the worst coaches are the guys who've never done the trip. And
Does that mean played the game?
never played the game, right? And they're just very heavy people, and they're on a vicarious authoritarian trip, and they just want to see you perform, and they just love to see you hit. And we do up in training camp a drill we call the Oklahoma drill, where, like my position as linebacker, I'd be getting across from a tight end. They have a back behind him, and then 2 dummies. Okay, and the purpose is to annihilate the guy over you, my purpose, and then tackle the guy. And his purpose is to block me out of the way, and so the ball carrier can run by me. And coaches really get it on doing that, you know, watching it. They really get behind it. Players don't necessarily do, but... You know.
I like the names for, I think Schwartzwalder sounds
Schwartzwalder's
like a
a beautiful
coach.
name, yeah, right.
Lombardi sounds like one, but Weeb Eubank, how do you explain that? No, I mean, that just... well, would you ever become a player again under any circumstances?
No, I've had it as, you know, I've done 7 years in the league, and...
You did very well. You
Yeah.
were making good money.
Making good money.
So they can't say you weren't.
Also ran, right. But as Chip Oliver, and Chip is the Oakland Raider outside linebacker who quit, and Chip's living in a commune over in Marin County in California. The mustard seed, Janis, we know about it. Yeah. And he's really a far-out guy. He's a very together person. And he told Al Davis, the GM, he said, listen, you know, you treat me like a man and I'll play. I really want to play. I like to play football. But I can't put up with, you know, the bull crap, you know, that you have to go through in training camp.
Bull feathers.
Bull feathers, right.
Imagine
that's
lying around Marin County, being nice to people and having people be nice to you is a lot better than kicking the hell out of people. You know?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different trip, right, Janis?
I mean, I just sounds like more fun to me. You know?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if maybe I
like,
question the
like,
idea that you can't.
That is better than that, right?
Right.
Right.
That is better than
No,
that.
that is better than that. You know, like.
I'm learning a lot here tonight, I must say. Right?
Then all sports would have to go.
No, I don't think so.
Ice hockey is pretty rough.
Yeah, it is pretty rough, but...
I'm not talking about...
There's something special about football, you're saying.
Well, yeah, let me just run a wrap down.
Can you do it in 30 seconds?
Yeah, the speciality of football is that inherent in the structure of the game, there has to be a physical confrontation where one person has to defeat another in most positions. No other sport is like that. Hockey isn't like that either. You know, the raison d'etre for hockey is to get the
What
puck
about
in the net.
boxing, or
You know,
that's different?
boxing, right. And I'm talking about team sports and major sports in this country, right.
Did you have trouble finding a publisher?
Well, I did, interestingly, I did, and because I contacted some of the major houses here in New York, and they kind of turned me down, and Ramparts Press gave me, I guess it's considered a small advance, and I did the book. Simon & Schuster's doing the national distribution, so we're going to get good coverage on it. And, I'm very pleased with the way it's going.
Are there any professional athletes who aren't writing a book this year?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the year for them. I guess Johnny Sample's doing it, too.
We have a message. We'll be right back. Cavett is scared of women, hides behind his wit like a brave coward with the face of a cowboy hero, a two-fisted pixie. Blah! Tomorrow night, Mort Saul, Rosalind Drexler, and critic John Simon, and any two-fisted pixies that we can scrape up. Thank you, Miss Swanson, for being here. And thank Janis Joplin, Margot Kidder, and Dave Meggyesy. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Brett Boy speaking. Good night.